Let's start with what I think was the biggest story of the day today, at least until a winless team was about to get their first win. But officially, Sean Miller does not face any sanctions. Field of 68's own Sean Miller. He did a great job on this very program for us all of last season. Obviously, now he's back in the coaching world doing his thing at Xavier. But he comes off of this clean. Book Richardson, 10-year show cause, some self-enforced penalties for Arizona, a $5,000 fine. Not sure how big that one is for a basketball program like Arizona. We'll see. One less scholarship for next season. So Goodman, let's throw it your way. What did you make?
Actually, I have some info on this. So I spoke to a source at the NCAA who said that part of the reason why they didn't give Sean Miller a suspension was because he self-imposed all of last season having to talk to Jeff Goodman. And what they said was dealing with Jeff for an entire year was bad enough. We can't punish this guy anymore. That's a direct quote from my source at the NCAA. So smart. That was a smart move by Sean. I gotta admit.
All right. Well, anyway. Here's
Don't you love when you try to make a joke and then it's just completely silent? Whoops. I guess that one.
I was expecting a rebuttal, but he didn't take the bait. He just said, anyway, here's the ruling.
I got nothing on it. All right. So on a serious note, I think it was complete bullshit that Book Richardson got 10 years, the 10-year show cause. More than the Sean Miller getting off without anything. And I'll get to that in a minute. You know, some of these guys, Lamont Evans, Book Richardson, Tony Bland got 3 years. He initially, I think, got a lifetime ban and then appealed it and got it down to 3 years. Tony Bland. Book for not cooperating, that was part of it, right? Didn't cooperate. You know, he talked to him, I think, once, and that was it. And they determined that he didn't tell the truth. Obviously, there was some academic fraud stuff in there as well. Mark Phelps, the other former assistant, got 2 years. But I think it's bullshit that most of the guys we're talking about here, other than one person at Adidas, were black assistants, and they got hammered. And the white head coaches really didn't get shit. And it just doesn't add up to me. I don't think it's fair. I think, for one thing, 10 years, it should be retroactive, certainly to when this thing started, at the very least, right? It's been 5 years. So if you're going to hit him with 10, give him 5.
It's time served, right?
Exactly.
It's like time served.
Yes, which he's completely served.
Literally, he went to jail for this.
He went to jail. I mean, these guys went to jail. Tony Bland and Lamont Evans. Like, it's not right. It's not right what happened to them. Did they screw up? Of course. Now getting to the Sean Miller situation. Listen, the bottom line was, through this IARP process, it was done very different, and we can see that. Oklahoma State didn't go through it, and they got the postseason ban. These other schools went through the IARP, which is going to be gone after the Kansas and LSU situations, which I can't understand why it's going to be gone, because it's actually been, I think, better in a sense that at least they're using facts. At least they're using evidence, where prior to this,
Can you explain, just real quick, explain what the difference in the system is for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, they have independent. It's not run by people, and the judge and the jury is not people employed by the NCAA. Now it's independent people that are trained, that are, legal experts, a lot of them. So I think at least they're going by pure evidence here. In essence, there was no evidence for Sean Miller. There was no evidence that he knew. Now, again, should he have known? Well, I mean, same thing like Rick Pitino, I say, should have known. Some of these other coaches should have known what was going on in their program. But ultimately, they found that he didn't know. So, Sean Miller getting nothing here surprised a lot of people, but it fell in line with some.
Can I push back on that? Can I push back on that real quick? Like, we say that Sean Miller got nothing. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment entirely. He lost his job at Arizona, right? He's no longer employed there. A job that he really, really liked. He had his team that was good enough to play an NCAA tournament banned from the NCAA tournament. They didn't go there. That was effectively the same thing that Oklahoma State got last year, right? So it's not like he didn't get anything. The issue is once he went past his punishment, he was able to get back in. Now, the problem is with Book Richardson, he's effectively done. Like his career as a basketball coach is over. 16 years is what it's going to be between when this stuff actually happened, when it first broke, and when he's actually going to be able to get back and be an NCAA head coach at any point.
Right.
16 years, which is fucking crazy for a guy that is simply operating within the system that is college basketball at the time. That's all he was doing. He wasn't doing anything all that different from what every assistant coach and what every head coach had going on in programs at that level. I don't want to say every, but for the majority of them, there's stuff like this happening, right? And the idea that the guy's career in this business is over. He is now a felon, right? He did time in federal prison for this. It's just, what is the FBI doing wasting their time on this? I make this point over and over again. The entire reason that this investigation started, the entire reason that this happened is a guy named Marty Blazer, who was an actual white-collar criminal who embezzled $2.35 million from his clients to go make a movie with Misha Barton, Devin Sawa, and Michael Clark Duncan that is like the lowest rated movie in the history of Rotten Tomatoes.
How do you remember who the movie?
Because it's fucking insane. Like he got caught doing that by the SEC, the real SEC, not the Southeastern Conference, the Security and Exchange Commission. And what he said was, I can give you college basketball. So he basically was the guy that set up all of these situations, got Christian Dawkins involved, funneled the money to him, was able to make sure that he could go out and make all these connections that got the FBI on them. He created this entire mess, right? He was the criminal. These guys were operating in the college basketball ecosystem that was what it was in 2017 and 2016. Most of that stuff is legal now. Most of that stuff is not going to be an issue. I'm old enough to remember when Kansas had a bunch of guys investigated because of Adidas relationships with players. Now look at what they're doing. Adidas just signed Grady Dick to an endorsement deal. Those guys went to prison for this. What are we doing?
You're not wrong.
I don't need to go on this rant again. I don't need to get fired up.
You're not wrong. The people at home. The people at home love anytime they hear a Misha Barton reference from Rob Dauster. I'll tell you that. It happens about once a year. It's impressive stuff. Final question on this, and then we'll move because there's 23.8 seconds until we can officially hear Goodman's toast here. Yeah. But do you think that this sets any sort of precedent for future situations that are similar going forward? Did we learn anything new from this ruling today that could apply to other schools, Jeff?
I think Kansas will be different. What we've learned is they're not going to hit schools with postseason bans anymore. They're not going to penalize the kids. That's the biggest thing that has changed here over the last couple months.
It's a good thing.
You know, again, you know, and I want to go back to this. I do want to go back to this because I was at ESPN when this whole thing broke with Sean Miller. And I'll still say it publicly, and maybe I shouldn't, but I do, that I think ESPN got it wrong. They got it wrong with the story with Sean Miller. If they had gotten it right, think about this, guys. Sean Miller has been investigated by Arizona internally, an investigation, by the feds, by the NCAA, and by the IARP.